It started with a calendar invite. No warning. No explanation. Just a notification that appeared on my screen like a closed door. HR 15 minutes. That was the entire title. No context. No notes, no agenda. I stared at it, and for a second, I felt something old rise in my chest. Not fear. That familiar instinct to brace for a story, being told about me without me. I clicked the invite. 2 names were listed, an HR manager I'd met once, and my direct supervisor, and then, in the description, quick check-in. Check-in. That phrase again. It was following me like a shadow. They sent someone to check on me. They called to check in. They showed up at my door to check on me. Now. My workplace, I closed the invite and sat back in my chair. I didn't panic. I didn't start drafting an email to defend myself. I didn't call anyone to ask what was happening. I waited. Because when someone tries to pull you into a narrative, the most powerful thing you can do is not rush to fill the silence. 10 minutes before the meeting, my boss messaged me, "Don't stress. It's nothing serious." Nothing serious. That sentence is supposed to calm you, but it does the opposite. Because if it's nothing serious, why is HR involved? I replied with one word. Okay. I walked into the meeting with the same calm I'd practiced for months. Not fake calm. Not performance calm. Real calm. The kind of calm you have when you finally accepted that other people may never tell the truth, and you don't need them to. The HR manager greeted me politely. My boss smiled, but his eyes looked careful, like he was trying to be supportive without stepping into anything messy. We exchanged the usual small talk, then HR said it. "We received a concern." A concern? I nodded once. From who? She hesitated, just a second, but I saw it. The hesitation people have when they're about to introduce something unfair. And they know it. A family member, she said. I didn't react. I didn't widen my eyes. I didn't ask which one. Like I was shocked. I didn't make it emotional. I let the silence sit. Then I asked calmly, what was the concern? HR chose her words carefully, like she was diffusing a bomb. She said she was worried about you, she began. That you've been isolated. That you've been not yourself. Not yourself. And that phrase is a weapon when people want to pathologize. Boundaries. It turns growth into instability. It turns distance into danger. It turns silence into something that needs to be fixed. I kept my voice even. Did she say anything specific? I asked. HR looked down at her notes. She used the word unstable. There it was. The word that could do damage without any evidence. The kind of word that makes people glance at you differently even after it's disproven. Unstable. I looked at my boss. He looked uncomfortable. Not because he believed it, because he didn't know what to do with it. Workplaces don't like family drama. They don't like personal mess. They like simple. My sister had tried to turn me into a workplace risk. I took a breath, not to calm down. To choose precision. I'd like to understand something, I said. Was this a request for support or a complaint? HR blinked. My boss shifted slightly. HR answered carefully. She didn't file a complaint. She said she was concerned for your well-being. I nodded. Then I asked the question that changed the tone of the room. Did she mention anything I've done at work? HR paused again, and in that pause, the logic started doing its job. No, she said. She didn't. I kept my voice calm and steady. So, to be clear, I said, someone who doesn't work with me contacted my employer and used a serious word. Unstable, without describing any workplace behavior. Silence. My boss looked at HR. HR looked at her notes again, like she wished something more concrete was written. There. That's the weakness of smear attempts in professional spaces. They rely on emotion. But work runs on facts. And then HR asked the most important question of the meeting. What would you like us to do with this? Most people in that moment would try to prove innocence. They would over-explain, overshare, confess too much, give personal details that can be misinterpreted later. They would try to look normal to regain control. But I wasn't there to look normal. I was there to keep my dignity intact. I kept my answer short. I'd like it documented as an external report without workplace evidence, I said. And I'd like no action taken unless there's a work-related concern. My boss exhaled quietly. Not relief. Respect. Because what I said was calm, rational, and professional. It made the situation simple. And simple is what everyone in that room wanted. HR nodded slowly. That's reasonable, she said. Then she asked, Are you safe? I didn't roll my eyes. I didn't get offended. I understood she had to ask. Yes, I said. I'm safe. Then I added something that felt like a final lock clicking into place. And I'm not interested in bringing family conflict into my workplace. My boss nodded. HR nodded. And just like that. The meeting ended. 15 minutes. No drama. No. Interrogation. No consequences. Just. A quiet confirmation that my sister's tactic didn't translate into the real world. But I knew it wasn't over. Because people like her don't stop at one attempt. They escalate until they get what they need. A reaction. A crack. A story they can tell. And when the workplace didn't give her that, she would try something else. Something that doesn't require HR. Something that requires panic. I returned to my desk. Opened my email and saw a new message notification. Subject line that made my stomach drop for half a second. Concerned. Family member. Urgent. And it wasn't from HR. It was from a shared mailbox. Someone had forwarded. It. The game was moving. I didn't open the email, right? Oh wait, not, because I was scared of what it said, because I didn't want the subject line to control my heartbeat. Concerned. Family member. Urgent. That's the kind of phrase that hijacks a room. It signals crisis without evidence. It makes people assume there's smoke, even if there's no fire. I clicked it. The message was addressed to a generic workplace inbox, one of those shared addresses that multiple people can access. It wasn't HR. It wasn't a manager. It was the kind of mailbox that exists to route things to the right person, which meant the email could be seen by people who had no business seeing it. That alone told me this wasn't about support. This was about distribution. The email wasn't long. It didn't have details. It didn't accuse me of a specific incident. It didn't mention a single work task, deadline meeting, or behavior. It used emotional language, vague warnings, and just enough urgency to make someone overreact. I'm a concerned family member. I'm worried about his well-being. He has been isolated and unstable. Please check on him before something happens. Before something happens. That was the hook. Not a claim. A threat made of implication. If my workplace ignored it, and later I had a bad day or missed a deadline, the email could be used as a warning that they failed to follow. My sister didn't need proof. She was trying to plant liability. I scrolled down. No signature name. No phone number. Just an email address. That looked new and anonymous. Sat very still. Then I did the one thing that always works when someone tries to weaponize emotion in a professional environment. I treated it like data. I took a screenshot of the email. I saved the message as a PDF. I noted the timestamp. I noted the mailbox it was sent to. Then I forwarded it to HR with one sentence. FYI, external report sent to shared mailbox. No workplace allegations, only vague claims. Please advise. No drama. No personal story. No, my sister is crazy. No feelings. Facts. Because facts force systems to behave correctly. 5 minutes later, HR replied, Thank you. Please don't engage. We'll document and handle. That was it. That should have been the end. But smear attempts don't end just because they fail at the top. They ripple sideways. Because even if HR handles it perfectly, the damage they want isn't always disciplinary. Sometimes it's social. Sometimes it's the subtle shift in how people look at you when they think something might be wrong. And the ripple started exactly where I expected. An hour later, a coworker I barely spoke to walked past my desk more slowly than usual. He didn't say hello. He glanced at me like he was checking my face for signs. Then he kept walking. Few minutes after that, I got a message on our internal chat. Hey, are you okay? No context. No reason. Just a question that sounded caring but felt coached. I replied calmly. Double quotes. Yes, I'm fine, why? There was a pause long enough to tell me the person was deciding how much to reveal. Then, just checking. Checking. That word again. It was everywhere now. I didn't respond further. I didn't want to interrogate them. They weren't the problem. They were the environment reacting to a signal someone planted. But I needed to stop the signal from spreading. Not by fighting it. By clarifying it once. Cleanly in the right channel. That afternoon, my boss asked me to step into a conference room for a minute. No HR this time. Just him. His tone was careful, like he was walking across glass. Look, he said, I want you to know we're on your side. But people saw something? People. Always people. He continued. That email hit a shared inbox. A couple folks forwarded it to me, asking what to do. Forwarded it. Of course they did. Because the email was designed to travel, and forwarding it made them feel responsible. Like they were preventing something. It wasn't malice. It was fear. I nodded once. I understand. I said. My boss looked relieved. Like he expected me to be angry. Are you okay? He asked. I held eye contact. I'm okay, I said. And I'd like to keep this professional. He nodded quickly. Of course. I took a breath, then made one request. I'd like you to send a short note to leadership, I said. Just stating that HR reviewed it, there were no work-related concerns. And people shouldn't circulate personal claims. My boss blinked. It was the kind of calm solution he probably hadn't expected. Most people in my position would either break down or overshare. But what I was doing was giving him a professional path that protected everyone. Yeah, he said. That's a good idea. He hesitated, then added quietly, I'm sorry this is happening. I nodded once. Thank you, I said. It won't escalate here. I didn't say because I won't let it. I didn't have to. The next morning, a short message went out from my boss to the small leadership group and team leads. No names. No details. Just policy. Reminder, please do not circulate personal or external messages about colleagues. HR has reviewed the message received. No action is required. Clean. Neutral. Final. And just like that, the oxygen left the room. People stopped asking if I was okay. Not because they didn't care, but because the system had decided it didn't need their involvement. That's the part my sister didn't understand. Workplaces don't run on family dynamics. They run on process. And process has a way of neutralizing emotional sabotage. By midday, I felt the room settle back into normal. But then my phone buzzed. Not a work notification, a personal message from my sister. One line, so HR didn't work. Got it. I stared at it, and something inside me went very quiet. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was admitting the tactic, not directly, but enough. Like she wanted me to know she could keep going. Then a second message appeared. You think you can make me look bad? Watch what happens next. Watch what happens next. There it was. The escalation. When they can't control you through family pressure, and they can't control you through public narrative, and they can't control you through your job. They look for the last place they can still get a reaction. Your friends. Your relationships. Your outside life. Your community. I didn't reply. I took a screenshot. I saved it. I sent it to no one. Not yet, because I knew the next step wasn't to warn everyone. That would spread the fear. The next step was to build a quiet exit from the only thing she could still touch. Access. I set my phone face down and kept working. Calmly. Because the truth was simple. If she needed my reaction to feel powerful, then my silence was still winning and I could feel it. She wasn't trying to hurt me anymore. She was trying to force me to prove I could be hurt. And I wasn't going to give her that. Not at work. Not in public. Not anywhere. But I also knew something else. She wasn't done. And this time, she wouldn't send an email. She would show up. Somewhere. She could control the audience. Somewhere. I couldn't mute her. Somewhere. She could perform the concern in person. And I already knew where that would be. Found out where she was going to strike the same way I found out most things lately. Not. From her? From someone who didn't mean to warn me? But did anyway, a coworker I actually trusted, someone who'd been in the meeting culture long enough to know when something felt off. Sent me a short message near the end of the day. Just a heads up. There's a team happy hour tonight. Your sister called reception earlier. Reception. My stomach didn't drop. It tightened like a lock turning, because the moment you realize someone is willing to enter your workplace, even socially, you stop dealing with family drama. You start dealing with risk. I replied calmly. Did she say why? My coworker answered. She said she was worried and wanted to make sure you were okay. Worried. The word she kept using like a passkey. A weapon dressed as care. I looked at the happy hour invite on my calendar. It wasn't mandatory. It was one of those optional things that becomes politically important if you skip two. Many do it, and that's why she chose it. Not HR, not formal meetings, a social setting, a soft room where people speak loosely. Where optics matter more than policy. Where a single emotional scene can spread faster than any email. She wanted an audience. She wanted the kind of moment that makes people say, I don't know. Something felt wrong. I didn't panic. I didn't cancel my plans. I didn't show up ready to fight. I did the one thing people like her never anticipate. I went directly to the person who owns the room I walked to. HR. Not with a complaint. Not with a dramatic story. With process. I asked to speak to the same HR manager from yesterday. When she appeared, I kept my voice low and calm. I received a heads up that an external family member may try to approach me at a work-related social event. I said, if that happens, I want it documented as unwanted contact. Her face changed. Not alarm. Recognition. Because now the behavior had crossed the line from concern. Interference, she asked. Do you feel unsafe? I feel targeted, I said. I'm not asking the company to manage my family. I'm asking the company to protect the workplace. HR nodded immediately. Understood, she said. Thank you for telling us. Then she asked a question that told me she had already separated emotion from action. Do you want to attend the happy hour? I paused, because I knew what my sister wanted most. She wanted me to disappear. Disappearance is proof in these stories. If you don't show up, they say it's because you're guilty. If you do show up and react, they say it's because you're unstable. Either way, you lose unless you change the rules. Yes, I said. I do. HR nodded again. We'll have security aware, she said. If she appears, do not engage. Come to a manager or HR rep. We'll handle it. That was the moment it hit me. My sister had spent years controlling family rooms because everyone was emotionally invested and afraid of conflict. But in a workplace? Control belongs to policy. And policy doesn't care who. Your father is. It doesn't care who your sister is. It cares what you do. I left HR and went back to my desk. I worked for another hour as if nothing was happening. Because the more normal you are, the less oxygen there is for drama. Later that evening, I arrived at the happy hour. A small place near the office. Warm lighting. People laughing. Music low enough to talk over. I entered like a normal person. I smiled. I greeted people. I ordered a drink. I stood with my team. I didn't scan the room like prey. I didn't look anxious. I didn't give anyone a reason to think the email had been right. 10 minutes in, I saw movement at the entrance. A woman stepping in with purpose. My sister. She wasn't dressed casually. She was dressed like she was arriving to be taken seriously. Hair done, makeup subtle but sharp. Posture confident. And in her face, something that looked like certainty. Like she believed she was about to win. She walked into the room and looked around until her eyes landed on me. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, a performance smile. The smile of someone who thinks the room is hers. She walked straight toward me. People noticed. Not because she was dramatic yet, but because she moved like she belonged. She stopped in front of me and spoke loud enough for people nearby to hear. Double quotes. Hey, she said sweetly. I was just worried. We've all been worried. Oh, that word again. She wanted the crowd to feel included. She wanted them to become her everyone. I didn't respond. I didn't smile back. I didn't give her the first line of the scene. She tilted her head, still sweet. Are you okay? She asked like she was talking to a child. I stayed calm. Then I did the most powerful thing you can do in a public setting when someone is trying to provoke you. I turned slightly, without turning my back, and raised my hand gently toward my boss, who was a few feet away. Not dramatic, just a small signal. My boss looked over, confused for half a second, then recognized the seriousness in my face. He stepped toward us. My sister's smile tightened, because now the scene wasn't hers. Now, the scene had witnesses with authority. My boss said, "Hi, can I help you?" My sister turned to him immediately, switching performance modes. "Oh! Hi," she said. "I'm his sister. I just wanted to check on him." "We've been worried," my boss cut in politely, professionally. "This is a work event," he said. "If you have concerns, you should contact HR." She laughed lightly, like that was silly. "I did," she said. "Too fast." That was the slip, because it proved intent. She didn't come here by accident. She didn't just happen to be nearby. She came because she had already inserted herself into the workplace. My boss's expression hardened slightly, still polite, but firm. "HR asked us not to discuss personal matters here," he said. "You'll need to leave." The air around us changed. People nearby stopped pretending not to listen. My sister's performance smile faltered. Just for a moment, then she tried to regain control. "I'm just trying to help," she said, a little louder now. "He's not himself. He's been unstable." Unstable. There it was again. And this time, she said it out loud in a room full of colleagues. I didn't react. I didn't correct her. I didn't defend myself. I did something better. I looked at my boss and said calmly, "I'd like HR." One sentence. Professional. Clean, unemotional. My sister blinked. Because she expected me to argue with her. She expected me to beg her to stop. She expected me to lose control and prove her point. Instead, I moved the situation into process. My boss nodded and stepped away to call HR. My sister leaned in toward me. "Lower now. You're really doing this," she hissed. "In front of everyone?" I looked at her with the calm she hated most. "You're the one who came here," I said softly. 2 minutes later, HR arrived with security behind them. No aggression. No spectacle. Just consequences. HR addressed my sister politely. "Ma'am, you need to leave," she said. "This is an internal event." My sister's face flushed, and for the first time, the room saw something real. Not concern. Not love. Frustration. The frustration of someone losing control. She tried one last line. "He's my family," she said, voice tight. "I have a right." HR cut her off gently. "No," she said. "You don't." Silence. Security guided her toward the entrance. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't need to. The humiliation was already complete, because the room had witnessed the truth. Her concern wasn't concern. It was interference, and I didn't have to say a word to prove it. When the door closed behind her, everyone went quiet for a beat. Then conversation slowly returned, like the room was trying to pretend it hadn't just seen something that couldn't be unseen. My boss stepped back toward me. "You handled that well," he said quietly. I nodded once. "Thank you." I said, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clear, because the win wasn't that she got escorted out. The win was that she failed to get what she came for. A reaction. A clip. Story. She came to prove I was unstable, and instead, she proved she was. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a message from her. One line. "You think this is over?" I stared at it for a second, then I blocked her. Not in anger. In closure. Because the lesson was simple. If concern requires access. It was never concern. They laughed first. I stayed quiet. And now, even my silence had a witness.